Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Notorious Momz, the podcast. And I'm here with my special guests, Vernisa and Jen from the Speak Up JV podcast. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Hi.
How you
Hey.
guys doing?
Great.
Thank you
Good.
so much for coming on, taking the time out to come on Notorious Moms, the podcast. I've seen a couple of your shows. I'm following you guys on Instagram. I think what you're doing is super dope. So introduce yourselves again and tell the people who you are and what you do and what's happening in your guys' world.
Oh yeah. So my name's Vernisa from California. Tuning in. It feels good to be a part of this platform. Thank you again for having us. I currently work in the legal field, and I run a podcast with my best friend Jen.
And my name is Jen, also from California. I'm currently a social worker, and I also run a podcast with Vernisa.
Nice. So you guys are from Cali. Love my West Coast people. I've had a few guests from Cali on. I can't wait to visit. I'm gonna visit sooner rather than later. I had a trip planned actually to go to San Francisco and the pandemic hit, so we haven't made it there. Thanks for COVID.
Oh,
So how did you guys meet? Like how did Speak Up JV come about?
So we met back in college. This was about 10 years ago, actually, when we were freshmen, and we were housemates in the beginning. So she had a different roommate. I had two other roommates, but out of everybody in the house, Bernice and I clicked, and we started realizing we had a lot of things in common. We're both Aquariuses, so that was like
Hey.
one of the bigger things. But yeah, we kind of started building our friendship off of that. We saw we had similar upbringings as well, and then throughout the years of our friendship, like we realized certain experiences that we were going through, other people could relate, especially because people were coming up to us to talk about certain things, and we realized like, hey, if we can help like on a bigger scale, why not, right? So instead of just putting the advice out there just to everyday conversations, we figured might as well record them, make people feel comfortable, make people know that the things that they're going through, they don't have to do that alone, or that they're not the only ones going through things like this. So we figured, why not put more positivity out there into the world?
So that I think that's like the best thing to do, right? Especially like with the podcasting being so like it's so big now. A lot of people have podcasts because they feel like they have something to say and to bring, a different kind of culture to the world. Because you don't know what people are going through until you have like these candid conversations. And it's like, hey, that happened to me, or I know someone that went through a similar experience. So, speak of JV, like the name. I love it.
thank you.
How did you guys come up with the name?
So it started as Speak Up originally, and it's because we talked about our shows about self love and inner peace, and we speak up on those topics that people really don't talk about because people think self love and inner peace is just face masks or relaxation, and we're speaking up on like facing your childhood trauma, facing those things that we don't talk about, taking accountability. So that's where the Speak Up part came in, and then JV is our names, Jen and Vernisa put together.
Good. That's dope. I like that. So I was listening to actually the last episode that you guys um had put out. You guys were talking about like not talking about things when you're angry and speaking about like, when you're having these conversations, like basically watching what you're saying when you're angry. And I could relate to that on such a level because I'm like, ooh, there's so many times that I've been upset and I kind of said things that I shouldn't have said. But where did that topic come about? That was a really good topic, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I've said this pretty much in every episode. Me personally, I'm a hothead, so I get mad easily, even though it doesn't seem like it. And I've had to learn to work on my impulsive decisions, but then my impulsive responses as well. So for me, it was a little bit more personal of a topic. But like you were saying, it's something that everybody can relate to. So Bernice and I were just talking one day, and we're like, hey, why don't we talk about this? Like sometimes we tend to make big life decisions based on the happiness we feel at that moment or even the anger we feel, and then we end up regretting it, or we realize it's not the best decision for us. So why don't we like talk about our experiences, what we've learned from it, and maybe hopefully it'll help somebody else out there.
Yeah. Um, what was I gonna say? So with that being said, I kind of felt like it's a good talk to have because a lot of people like you said, like when you're happy you make a decision, and it kind of brought me back to, I remember a lot of times when I was like younger and my parents would be in a good mood and I would ask them for something and they'll be like, yeah, 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 go ahead, like do it, because they were feeling in such a good mood, and it was like, oh, I can ask them for anything at this time. And it's just like that's how we are, like as people too, like we go, I feel like a lot of times we go on our emotions and what we're feeling, we kind of make those like not so logical decisions. It's like, even though we're emotional beings, we have to kind of be logical. But I think anger is like, it's an emotion that a lot of people struggle with.
Mhm.
Like I know, especially me. Like I couldn't even tell that you're a hothead. You look so even keel. When you
Like
said that, I'm like, oh, I feel the same way. Because a lot of people don't know that, like, I would say I have a little bit of a temper. Vernisa, do you
Yes.
have a temper?
Oh, do I have a
Yeah.
temper? I can. I'm real calm, but I feel like with me personally, that episode slow down what goes with my overthinking. So sometimes I
Mm.
overthink things too much, and that's where my emotions get the best of me. To where I don't think things through because I'm just like, okay, I do something impulsive like that too. But yes, I have a temper. If you take me there, yes, I do. So if I speak up, keeps us nice and calm and collective as well.
Yes, you mentioned
Work in
overthinking.
progress.
Oh man, I like my husband is the overthinker in our relationship, so we have issues with that sometimes. Because I'm just like, I'm starting to like learn about overthinking a bit more because I'm definitely not an overthinker. I'm an emotional person.
Mm.
Like I'll make a decision on my emotion and then I'll regret it later. Sometimes it works out for me, and sometimes it
Right.
doesn't. But he kind of like he overthinks everything. And I feel like when it comes to like overthinking, sometimes it stunts you a little bit
Mhm.
because you're like thinking and thinking and thinking, and then that's all you're doing is thinking about it and you're not actually doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's about finding that balance, right? Because, yeah, with the overthinking, you're mainly in your head before making that decision. But then if you're like an emotional decision maker, then, yeah, you've made it on the whim without even really processing it. And like you said, it can go either one of both ways, right? And it may not always be the best way. So, this is kind of where we try to keep ourselves in check too, in keeping that balance. Because, yeah, I've had to make so many impulsive decisions based on my emotions for me to get to this point and be like, all right, you need to slow down. Like some of these consequences are your fault, because you took that action, me talking to myself, of course. And it's still a work in progress, like Vernisa was saying. I still have to remind myself, check myself. I still get hot tempered sometimes, but I don't always just say what I feel, and especially don't act on those decisions. I mean, on those emotions.
Yeah, definitely. So when you guys talk about like your podcast being about like self-healing, and what are some things that you guys practice for like self-healing and dealing with like situations that have happened to you in the past or present?
Mm. I would have to say our show we focus a lot on self reflection. So really like playing back things, trying to understand why we react the way that we do when things trigger us today, and get into the root of it. And we talk a lot about spending that time with yourself. We're in a time where people don't are kind of scared to spend time alone because they don't kind of want to go deep and understand who they truly are. But honestly, that has helped me and Jen. Maybe it's the Aquarius in us, but that has helped me and Jen a lot. And then us talking through, having the right crowd of people to talk to, that support group and stuff like that to get through. So those are, I feel like, for me personally, self-reflection has been something, and understanding my past and why I act the way I do today, so I can work on that. So like if I have decided to have children in the future, they don't have to go through the same things that I was brought up in, if that makes sense personally.
Yes, definitely. Jen?
I would say for me, it's I stopped feeling ashamed of the way that I felt, whether it was positive or negative. Because I know sometimes we think of anger as like just a negative emotion, but sometimes that anger is what drives us to make a better decision for ourselves, right? We decide we've had enough is enough. So let me go and finally do what I have to do, or leave this person, or make this hard decision, whichever. And it actually turns out being the best thing that we've ever done. But if I was still feeling ashamed for what I was feeling, then I would just be stuck, and I wouldn't even allow myself to feel that in the first place. So for me, that was always the first step of like, it's okay to cry, it's okay to be angry, it's okay to, feel whatever. Obviously, got to work through it. But if I never acknowledge what they are in the first place, how am I ever going to get there?
Right. Yeah. I think that like for me that was like that's my biggest thing, like acknowledging how I feel.
Mhm.
Because like for me personally, like I'm always the strong one. I'm always the one that, is supposed to keep everything together. And I think that as I got older, you start kind of like peeling back the layers. And Vernisa, you mentioned like, people not wanting to be alone. And I can see that. And I think that the pandemic kind of brought people to have to do that.
At the table.
And for a lot of people that really wasn't, it was a real scary thing,
Mhm.
and a lot of people have suffered from anxiety and depression. But I think that the important thing about it is that once you peel back the layers about yourself, you can figure out like, hey, it's okay to be by yourself. It's okay to, cry. It's okay to be angry. Like just managing your emotions. I think that's like such a dope thing that you guys speak about. Because people need an outlet.
Mhm.
I feel like there's so many people, especially like in my culture. I come from a Puerto Rican background. My parents are Puerto Rican. And these things were never spoken about. It was always like, oh, there's nothing wrong. You'll be all right. You'll get over it. But it's
Mhm.
like, no, like I want to talk about how I'm feeling. And I'm
Mhm.
a water sign too. I'm a Cancer.
Ooh.
So that's why I know about the Aquariuses. Love love my water sign people. So
Waterbury, yeah, I love it. Mhm.
yes. So as far as like what other things do you guys have in store for the podcast? Or is that the only thing that you guys do right now? Is like just the podcast?
No, well, Vernisa, you could speak on this a little bit more, but we're actually revamping everything with our show, and expanding into other realms. Of course, we're more of like a show, don't talk type of people, so it's more of like you'll see, where it goes, but we
Yeah.
definitely have other things in the works right now.
Good, good.
Yeah, we want Speak Up JV to be more than just a podcast. So it's
Yes.
obviously things, and we do also have like motivating episodes too. So we understand that things take time. It's a day by day process for what you have, but you keep pushing. So yeah.
So I'm glad that you mentioned that. So as far as like motivation, like what kind of tips would you give for like women or people in general to like keep them motivated when they may feel stuck in like a situation or a decision, or maybe they just can't make up their minds?
Hmm. I would say even on your bad days, your challenging days, you are just as worthy.
Mhm.
Despite of what you've been through, what you're going through, you're still worth whatever you're headed to. I learned the baby steps matter. Me and Jen talk about this too. Whatever you're trying to go, it's not one big old step. It is those little things in between, and also shifting your perspective of how you take challenges. Maybe this is preparing you for when you get there and stuff like that. So also like that, and also one more thing, that positive self talk through it. Someone wise in me and Jen's life once spoke on positive self talk, and honestly, I feel like that's like the number one key of success right there. Because if you get your mind right, you really believe you can do
Mm,
anything. You're telling yourself positive things. Whatever comes your way, you like, I'm gonna get through this regardless. Like I kind of smile now. You just kind of get past it because
yeah.
you're telling yourself the right thing.
And I think it's the energies too.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like and
Yes.
having like positive people in your life as well. Cause it's like it's such a drag. Like I've learned this too as I got older. Like sometimes people that you may love or that you may have around you are kind of like negative influences. And you
Yeah.
don't realize it until it's like you get to a point where it's just like, man, you're always complaining about something. Like, what's the problem?
Yeah.
Or you never see like the positive in things, because there are people out there that are just so freaking negative, and it's like that's all they give out.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's a sad life, because obviously it's about what you focus on, right? I'm big on quotes. So Oprah has this quote that says, like, if you focus on what you don't have, you'll never have enough. If you focus on what you do have, you'll always have more. So
Yes.
life is really all about your perspective, because it's no secret that life is hard, right? That we're going to get unexpected challenges, but it's about what we choose to do with those challenges. So I would even say a big thing we focus on also is telling people it's okay to start over. Like, it's okay to take a detour from your original plan. If you see things that the way you wanted things to go are not working, it's okay, backtrack, go back those 10 extra steps. Even if it feels like you're starting all over, you're starting from experience. And at least you're able to move forward and find a better path that actually works for you. But we can't be scared of starting over. And like, even in our personal lives, it's something that we've had to remind ourselves about also, and really put into practice so that we feel confident enough to tell other people the same thing.
Yes, I love that. Because it takes me back to like when I started my podcast. Like I went into like in like Vernisa mode, I'm gonna say, because I overthanked the shit out of that. I'm like, listen, I was like, all right, I want to start a podcast, right? So in the very beginning, I started recording myself, like talking to myself, and I'm just like, this is not gonna work. like, like I started and I'm like, I'm just talking and I'm like, I'm jumbling up my words and I'm like, oh man, fuck, this shit is just like not cool. Nobody's gonna want to hear this. So
Uh-huh.
then I kind of just stopped and I was just like stuck for a long time because I'm like, okay, what do I want to do? Like, what do the people want to hear? What do you want to talk about? And then finally my husband is just like, look, you gotta just start. He's like, you got to just forget about it and just start.
Hmm.
And that's pretty much what I did. And I talked to like my friends about the same thing cuz I have a couple of friends that, want to do things but they're scared and I'm just like, look, it's not easy. But you got to just start.
Hmm.
Like and I think a lot of people struggle with that too because there's a lot of people that have goals and have dreams and they're just like they don't know where to start. So it gets a little complicated, like emotion wise and all that stuff. Like how would you like what tips would you give to people like dealing with emotional like issues or like past traumas or things that are just like have been bothering them and they don't know how to just start and like talk to someone?
Are you saying like to get help or like to start something that they want to do, but it's something totally
Either
bad?
way, whatever it is.
Okay. Well, the thing I like to use is I love to take my hardships and use that as a fire under my ass to
Hmm.
push to do. Because let's be real, we don't pick the spoon, right? Whatever we're born into, it is what it is.
Right.
But what are you gonna do with it? And honestly, our show was built off of pain. Me and Jen, we took whatever we went through, and that's why we're able to speak like this because it's like our diary of us healing, working on ourselves as women and our personal development. So I'm gonna be real. Me and Jen didn't come from money and things like that. So we bought these $20 mics. We sat in my room and we just started recording. And it was, mind you, if you go back to or listen to our first episodes, it is so staticky, but people still listened. And
Yeah.
that's what showed us like keep going, and then as it improves, it's like, okay, I'm glad we kept going. 3 years later, I'm looking back, I'm like, I'm glad we sat in my room and bought the mics. So what I want to say is, like you just said, just start. Despite what it is, look up what you need, take those baby steps, and go from there.
Yes. I feel the same way because I don't come from money either. Like I'm not,
Mhm.
and I did the same thing. I went on Amazon. I'm like, oh, okay. My husband, he's an audio engineer, so he was
Mhm.
like, all right, this is the ones you're gonna get for your buck. So
Hmm.
we're gonna get these, and we're gonna just put up the before, like in my room, before it looks nice. We had all these little foam like these black foam things for like the acoustics. I'm like, all right, we're gonna just do this and we're gonna record. And at first, like if you go back to my earlier episodes too, a lot of them we're like my friends. I still record with my friends because I love them to death. And they always support me. But a lot of them were just like with my friends. And my very first episode was just like, oh gosh. I think I was talking about like my mom and stuff like that, but people were listening.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, hey, I could do this. Like, this is cool. So, how is it living in California? I'm just curious because I ask this question to my people that live in Cali because what part of California do you guys live in?
I live in the San Fernando Valley.
And I live in Los Angeles, like LA.
Okay. How's the weather actually? And I just want to know, is it nice? Because
It's
it is
lovely.
freezing in New York. I'm just
Yeah, I
let y'all know
know.
that right now. I'm so jealous because it's probably like 70 something degrees.
Yeah, sun
Yeah.
out. Last time me and Jim were in New York, it was snowing, so we're
Oh,
good.
when was the last time you guys were here?
Maybe
Um,
2 years ago.
2019 or
Yeah.
2020? 2019, yeah, January 2019. I want to say.
Oof, you
Yeah.
come in January.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it was right before the pandemic hit.
Ugh, that damn pandemic. I'm so over it.
I know.
Like people are still really having a hard time with it and I just feel like I think this is just going to be like our new norm.
Mhm.
I still always wear my mask. I don't know
Me
like about
too.
you guys,
Yeah.
but
Sure.
I was in Jersey the other day and nobody wore their mask and I was a little paranoid. I'm like, "Ooh."
Like, let me back up.
I'm like nobody is wearing a mask. Like but it is what it is. People do what they do.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So, how do you guys like doing podcasts? Like, how do you feel about that? Like, and are you guys getting a lot of good like reviews? And how do you deal with people that give you bad reviews? Like, have you had trollers and people like making stupid ass comments?
Only once I can only think of one bad comment. We did an episode about body positivity and
Mhm.
accepting your curves, and then someone commented because we're promoting more like people embracing their body and like if you want
Yeah.
to work on it, it's up to you. What do you want to do? What how do you feel? And then I guess someone got offended about that. So it was like I forgot what the comment said, but that's the one time. But other than that, as far as feedback, honestly, I love the feedback because people feel safe to open up to us. Like people send us like paragraphs about like what they were going through, and they're just like, "Thank you, I needed this. I'm working on this at the moment. I need," and that brings because me and Jill want to make an impact. So
Yes.
that right there like fulfills us right there. Just knowing like we're out there making that impact in that way because that's our goal. Because our mission statement is we will use our voices to motivate people to overcome life's challenges through self love and respect. So the fact we're doing that makes us feel great.
Yes, I think that's like so dope when you get a message and it's just
Mhm.
because like that happened to me the first time I got a message because my thing is all about like being a mom and the
Mhm.
struggles that we go through because I have two children. I have a 17-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Mhm.
So it's hard like being a mom and being a full-time worker and having all this craziness. So it feels really good when you know that you can make like an impact on somebody's life or help them in some kind of way. I think like that's really important to like push that positive energy.
I agree. Yeah. And this is something that, we've shared in the show before too. Both Vernice and I were made fun of for our voices when we were younger. So for us to be doing podcasting now, like it's almost ironic, but at the same
Why? Your
we
voices are great.
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank
Yeah.
well go ahead.
Yeah, we have deeper voices, obviously for women and stuff. So growing up, like I used to hear like, oh, you sound like a robot on the phone, like a man, whatever. But so having a podcast now, like it's empowering in that sense. Like my voice is what I came with, right? It's the one thing I really can never change in my life. So it's something almost like an FU to those people, who made fun of me because I'm like, yeah, well, at least somebody's listening to me talk on this mic for like an hour
Yes.
almost every week. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there that it's almost ironic, but it's like once we've discovered it, it's the best thing that's ever happened to us. And actually our friendship too. It keeps us very accountable as women to each other as well.
Oh, I'm really big on that, like friendship. Because I have my circle is really small, but I do have a really small group of friends that I love them dearly. But I'm just kind of one of those people. Like if I love you, I'm gonna love you forever. And
Yeah.
if I hate you, then I'm gonna hate you back. So. It's like I don't hate anybody, but let's say dislike.
Mhm.
And I think that's really dope because this kind of thing it builds these kind of friendships.
Mhm.
Sometimes you meet people like I just met people over the weekend that I have met on Instagram, like legit.
Wow.
We met on Instagram. we built up this like Instagram friendship, and then we met in person, and it was just like we felt like we knew each other for like years, and it's a bunch of women, and they're like empowering, and the energy is so great. And I think that that's like such a great thing that people should have, is a group of women or a group of whoever that makes you feel good about yourself, but also is not afraid to like keep it real with yourself too. Because sometimes you have those friends that'll just yes you to death.
Yes.
It's like, no, mm-mm.
Oh, yeah. No,
I'm
that's
gonna
real.
need you to keep it real with me.
Mhm.
That.
Right?
Yeah, that's one thing about me and Jay. We're very like real with each other when it comes to something.
And
And
how
that's
long have you guys been friends for?
10 years
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Wow. That is so nice. 10 years is a long time.
Mhm.
Like you think about how time like really moves. It's like in a blink of an eye. And I'm sure it's gone so fast for you guys too. You
Yeah,
know?
it's funny. Like, so one of the biggest things that we share together is food. So we were talking about this the other day. I was like, I'm pretty sure we've had over 1,000 meals together at this point. Like, throughout the 10 years that we've known each other.
Right. Oh, don't even get me started
Oh,
with food. I love food. I celebrate everything with food.
yeah.
Say,
We're going out, we're having brunch, we're eating, we're celebrating. Somebody's giving birth, somebody got married, somebody died. We're eating.
Peter.
It's like,
That's
what
real.
what is up with that? Maybe
Hey, look, ain't
maybe
nothing
it's
wrong
a
with it.
culture thing. I don't know. Because a lot of people celebrate with food,
mhm.
Mhm.
which
It
I
makes
think
us happy. I'm gonna say that.
And I feel like it's the easiest way to get to know somebody, right? Like the things that they like, or why they chose a certain dish or whichever. I like learning about people through food.
I agree. I'm with you. Definitely, definitely with you on that. So, ladies, what other tips would you have for anyone that wants to start a podcast or is venturing out into a new like a new venture? What would you say to them?
I would say two things. One, find your niche. Like, I think that's really important. And it adds a bit of an organization to whatever you're trying to do. When you know who you want to focus on, who you want to reach, and things like that. And then two, don't pay attention to somebody else who's already done it. Because if we do that, then we wouldn't have all these fashion designers, all these podcasters, right? Motivational speakers, whatever. So if Vernice and I had focused on all these other podcasts that were out there, especially like mental health or self love, then we wouldn't be here. But we decided to still go for it because at the end of the day, whatever flavor you bring is yours and yours alone, right? So her and I have a certain style that we like to bring to the show and to our people that only we can deliver. Just like you have a certain style to your podcast that only you can deliver. So yeah, I would tell that to people. Like, forget everybody else who's already done it. Like, if you really want to do it, you're passionate about it, go for it.
Mhm. I would have to say, for stay consistent. We all know, us podcasters know, it's,
Yes.
literally have that schedule, stay on it. That's one thing that helped me and Jen is our consistency. Another thing, stay consistent, and also when the challenges come, learn from them. Like, just sit there and change your perspective. Don't allow that to be your stop sign because, oh, this came up. Because anything that you want to do, whether you want to start a hair shop, whatever, it's going to be some type of trial, some type of tribulation. But do not let that stop you. If that's really what you want to do, push through it and keep going. So yeah.
Yes. I think that that is I feel totally the same way. Because there has been many times where I'm just like, cuz it kind of is like I guess it's that self-doubt.
Yeah.
You feel like you can't do it, or you also start coming up with excuses as to why it can happen, right? I think that also has happened to me on a few occasions. It's like, "Oh, I can't record today because I'm tired." Or I can't record today because like, I have issues because, well, not really issues, but I have to record later because my 2-year-old, I have to get her to sleep. If not, she'll be running around here breaking up all my shit. And then I'll never be able to record. So it's like, okay, either I'm recording 6 a.m. in the morning or 11 o'clock at night or, in between on the weekends. But I think that self-doubt is one of the things that you have to like just get rid of because like you said, everyone brings their own style and their own flavor, And I think everyone has different perspectives. And this is why I love talking to different people, because everyone has a different opinion. Everyone has different ways of like saying things and how they deliver their message.
Mhm.
So I think that is super dope. And ladies, tell the people where they can find you: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
All
What
that.
else?
So you can find us on Instagram at SpeakupJV. We also do live shows, 7 p.m. Eastern time every third. Sorry, I'm so sorry. 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Download the Good News Radio app if you want to check in with that. We're on Twitter at
Oh, okay.
SpeakupJV, and we do pre-recorded shows. So we're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, but just go to SpeakupJV, and then the links in our bio.
Super dope. Well, ladies, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was such a lovely, lovely chat. I hope to speak to y'all soon.
Yes, thank you for
And
having
have a good
us.
night. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.